Okay, so we have our next speaker, the lovely Jolie Donohue. And if you can tell, we're obviously doing a food theme. This was like, again, the start of the core foundational basic human needs of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so now bringing in this lens of social justice, Jolie Donohue is our Cascade Learning Garden Coordinator at Portland Community College Cascade. Sadly, we aren't even allowed to go in and work on our gardens right now. So that's been quite a shame. So hopefully those gardens are going to be okay. So Jolie, if you can share your screen, I'll stop sharing this one and you can join the party.
Hi everybody, my name is Jolie Donohue. I'm the Cascade Learning Garden Coordinator at Portland Community College, and I use she, her, hers pronouns. So thanks everybody for being here. 100 participants is awesome. I'm really glad to be with you. And I'm going to be presenting today on the Cascade Urban Learning Garden at Portland Community College. I would like to say that I am fortunate to live and garden in Portland, Oregon, on the unceded lands of the Multnomah, Clackamas, Cowlitz Band of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapua, and Molalla peoples. With reverence, I acknowledge their culture, their community, their elders both past and present, future generations, and their land that I live on. I acknowledge my living here as a guest is founded upon the exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples, and we must begin the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. So for my presentation today, I would like to walk you through the Cascade Learning Garden. I'd like to talk to you about the goals of the garden. I'd like to talk to you about the history of the garden, our programming, and then the ways that our programming transitioned when we went into the pandemic. So this is a photo here of our beautiful Cascade Learning Garden. There are learning gardens on all 4 of the Portland Community College campuses and also the Newberg Center. Our Cascade Learning Garden is the newest of all of the learning gardens. It was founded, it's actually our 1-year anniversary next week. Earth Week is our 1-year anniversary. So this garden was started by students and by staff that had a very strong commitment to food justice. The primary goal of our garden is to grow and provide healthy year-round food to our students via our Panther Pantry. Some of the other goals in our garden are community-based learning. We are a living laboratory for classes across all disciplines. And because our garden is so centrally located on our urban campus in a very busy, bustling neighborhood, we are a demonstration garden for small space urban gardening practices. As you can see our garden right there, we're in between 2 classroom buildings, and one side of our garden is North Kirby Avenue, which is a public street, and it is also the drop-off and the pickup for the Portland Community College shuttle. So we get a lot of traffic through our garden, not only with the Portland Community College community, but also all of the neighbors. So when we're thinking about gardening for social justice, what does that mean exactly? So our students collaborated to make this garden a reality because they were well aware that 1 in 3 PCC students experience food insecurity. And this is not exclusive to PCC. Unfortunately, homelessness and food insecurity is rampant in college households. And we also know that people of color are disproportionately impacted by diet-related illness. So all the food that we're growing in the garden is packaged up and given to our Panther Pantry. So our Panther Pantries are on every campus, and they are food banks for free for our students and for our staff. There is no financial requirements or screening that happens. People can just come and get food, and this is some lovely packaging that our Panther Pantry manager created for us for the Learning Garden produce. The history of our garden is that for many, many years, our students were dreaming and planning about the Cascade Urban Learning Garden. And so in the spring of 2019, it was established, and how it was built was through funding from an eco-social justice grant. So Portland Community College students voted to put a small tax on their tuition every year, and that money goes into a big pot, and then people can apply for that grant, and then the students decide who gets that grant money. Our garden was designed by a Portland Community College alum. The place that it was created on the campus was this big area of lawn. So the grant did not go to pay a contractor to remove all of that lawn. This was a grassroots effort by the students and the staff volunteering to remove all of the grass out of this area. This took quite a bit of hard work there. It's about halfway done in that photo, and here we are at the end of all of that hard work, and many, many dumpsters later of sod being removed for the garden to be planted. So in the spring of 2019, the garden was planted up with vegetables, herbs, 2 espaliered fruit trees. It was maintained by bi-weekly volunteer work parties. And then in August of 2019, the Learning Garden Coordinator, that's me, was hired, and I came on. So this is what the garden looked like when I came on as the Learning Garden Coordinator. We had 9 raised beds constructed. As you can see, they were overflowing with produce from the summertime. So a lot of crops were grown, and when I came on board, we were trying to get all that food that was grown out to the students that were on campus during the summer, to the staff, to the neighbors, so that none of that food went to waste in the garden. We had tomatoes coming out our ears. We are a no spray natural garden. So what that means is that we don't even use organic sprays in the garden. No pesticides, no herbicides, no fungicides of any kind. And the compost we use is all natural and organic in addition to compost. So we really dove in earnest in the beginning of the fall term in 2019. You'll see there in that photo that's the center of the garden. That's just been removed of the summer crops. There's some espaliered fruit trees right there. And then you can see some of the raised beds. You can also see there's some coiled up drip irrigation. Our garden aims to be as sustainable as possible. So we employ a drip irrigation system on timers. So our students got to work in the fall removing weeds, planting all of these lovely cool season fall crops, which we harvested and gave to the Panther Pantry all the way through the beginning of December. During the fall term, our learning garden was staffed by, in addition to myself, it was staffed by volunteer work parties. So our volunteers were students, staff, faculty, community volunteers. During those work parties, we planted a pollinator garden. We planted an extensive blueberry garden to add to our fruit crops. Our student leaders spread 25 yards of compost in the center area of the garden. So once those crops were harvested there, we spread compost, and then this area was planted with cover crops, which we would have removed in May to plant our summer crops, but they're just going to keep going all summer while the garden is not being tended, and they're helping out the pollinators and boosting nitrogen in the soil and preventing erosion. In the fall, we planted garlic, shallots, and onions, which are overwintering vegetable crops. We planted native camas bulbs in the garden, and we planted these spring blooming ornamental flowers that just started blooming before the campus was closed. We added some red and white currant bushes. There's Briar, our sustainability manager, planting a honeyberry bush. We planted an espaliered fruit tree in the fall. And then this is a technique we did to prepare for next year's native plant garden. So we are a no-till garden. So what these volunteers are doing is utilizing a no-till method called sheet mulching, where they layer cardboard, they put fall leaves, yard debris, compost, and mulch in layers. And that's going to smother and kill weeds and boost the quality of the soil. So as we entered into 2020, we had amazing plans for our garden. We were awarded several more grants for all of these exciting projects that we were going to start in the springtime. This area was slated to have accessible outdoor furniture and home compost. All of that stuff is sitting there waiting at PCC for when the campus reopens, hopefully this summer. This area is slated to be a culinary and medicinal herb garden, is what the students wanted to have here. When winter term began in 2020, we were doing an indoor garden event when the weather was bad. So we were doing learning garden lunch bunch discussion groups. We met every other week, staff, students, faculty, and we tackled a bunch of gardening topics together. These were some of the things that we talked about. It kept community engaged in gardening topics and activities while the garden was still out there, but no one wanted to be there in the cold weather. During the winter, we did community building with a variety of different activities. Like this was a Valentine's Day party we facilitated with the green team where we did some nature-based Valentine creation, and we also planted up some seeds for pollinator plants. We began our winter term work parties at the beginning of March. We were able to have 2 work parties before the campuses closed. So on March 5th, we got busy. We planted 2 columnar apple trees, a dwarf fig tree, a lot more raspberries and marionberries. This is one of our work study students. The Learning Garden is able to employ students in meaningful work to help support them. And he's working with a student who told us that she had never worked in a garden ever before. So that was a really fun project. This is one of our staff volunteers planting dozens and dozens of strawberries. On March 12th, we planted up our 9 raised beds with over 100 cool season vegetable and herb crops. And a week later, the campus is closed. So we do have all of these crops currently growing in the garden. The garden is on drip irrigation timer. So while I'm not able to be there and care for the garden, it is being monitored by our grounds and facilities staff. So hopefully we'll be able to go back in a couple months and harvest all of those good crops. So as we moved into spring 2020 and we're in a virtual world now, I've tried to get really creative about how we continue to teach about gardening, have community-based learning in the garden, and we engage our community in how they can garden at home. So we definitely are making lemonade out of the lemons the world has given us right now, but I also just want to acknowledge the collective grief and loss and fear and anxiety and uncertainty that we're all experiencing. So not being able to do all these wonderful things in the garden this spring has been very heartbreaking for me personally and our entire student community. So the lemonade that we're making, this is my home garden right here. And what we're doing is we're doing weekly virtual learning garden lunch bunch groups made available for the entire PCC community via Zoom. So what's been awesome about going remote and virtual is that we had about 5 people attend our in-person learning garden groups, and we have had 25 people attend every week our learning garden virtual groups from across the district. I've been able to do demonstration videos from my home garden and take photos and post those on our Learning Garden Instagram. Our Cascade Green team is still meeting, and we do still have a really awesome virtual Earth Week plan. So big shout out to my PCC sustainability colleagues for putting together this awesome campaign. So here's some of our marketing for our virtual Earth Week events. We do have this great Instagram challenge planned, and with some of the inspiration from Multnomah County employees, our sustainability department put together this great virtual Earth Week bingo game. So I feel like I talked really fast because I had a lot that I wanted you to hear about in my 12 minutes. So I would love to hear what your questions are about the garden, and hopefully when PCC reopens this summer, you can all come and take a look at the garden.
That's wonderful. My goodness, and congratulations for how much you've accomplished. I know that PCC Cascade was the last campus to get a learning garden. We have one in Sylvania, Rock Creek, and Southeast. So you're doing great progress, and I appreciate your leadership. We are on these sessions about 5 minutes over, so we need to move along. These are like TED Talk presentations. They're short, and so we're going to, if we can, we will try to make up some time in our community dialogue section where we can offer some more time for people to all connect together and ask questions. So hopefully that sounds good to you. I'm going to, if you don't mind, so I just do want to really acknowledge, Jolie, that you've done some incredible work. I hope others were impressed by that, and hopefully you'll get a chance visit. All of these speakers were originally scheduled for our symposium, which was going to be posted at PCC Cascade. So that was, so these are also workshops. These were going to be tours. So thank you for being nimble and trying to translate this into PowerPoint slides and as much as you can into video. So, all right, there are questions that are coming in via the chat page. So if folks want to respond to those, privately, you can write over there. And again, if we have some links, we will be advertising Earth Week. We will be sharing those resources at the end as well via our GPSEN regional hub. So just every question you might have or resources you need, we'll collect those and pull those together for you and send it to all participants.